In order to sound smart, us colorists use all sorts of terms. Luma mix set to 0, HSV saturation only, subtractive saturation, scene referred workflow. What am I missing? 18% gray. What does it really mean? And how to properly set it up in Resolve. That's the focus of this video. So we're gonna demystify some of the things too. And even if you think that you know it all, let's skip to the next video. I promise you, especially the ones that are know it all are the ones that make mistakes. So we're gonna go through all of those things. These things sound really advanced, but they're not. That said, it is very important for you to understand it on a basic level and just enough to know how to set it up properly in Resolve. So if you like these sort of videos that basically get you results right away when you apply these techniques, then do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you won't miss my next video. Let's jump right in. For those that don't know me, my name is Qazi. I've worked with brands like Adidas, Amazon Prime, Universal Studios, and I make just straightforward color grading tutorials so you can work with your dream clients. So what is middle gray and why does it matter? It is associated with your contrast. So when you push your contrast, what are you doing? You're basically stretching your shadows and you're stretching your highlights, right? And we need to find the middle point. Middle gray is what it's called. Think of it like a seesaw right here, okay? So the correct balance is going to be that, it is right in the middle. And if two people are sitting on each side, let's say shadows and highlights, and if they're about the same weight, they'll just keep swinging back and forth, back and forth. But if we move the pivot, like the center point of the seesaw to one side, there's gonna be a major disbalance. And that's why 18% is very important. Most importantly, depending on the type of working color space you're in, your pivot point, that 18% gray, will shift. And that's why setting up your proper workflow is so important, because you can't just like roll the dice on it and just think that everything is going to be great. I mean, you can see it right here. For DaVinci wide gamut, your pivot needs to be set to .335. For log C3, 391. For log C4, 278. And the list goes on. Rec 709, it needs to be set to the default, .435. And let me give you an example. So let's just say if we go here, and if I set this to waveform, and if I just go under my contrast and start moving it, like this is the perfect middle S, right? But if we were working in a different color space, it would look something like this. It could be set here, and then your highlights are blown out, right? When you're pushing your contrast like this, or it could be set all the way down here. And then when you push your contrast, you're making your image really dark. And this is a massive, massive problem. Let's try it on this footage right here. So let's say I go here and I don't make any changes. Right now, the pivot is set to Rec 709, but I'm working in DaVinci wide gamut color space. So if I go right here and if I start moving this, look at how much darker my image is getting, okay? So now if I click right here and type in 335, which is for my DaVinci wide gamut, 18% middle gray, and if I hit enter, now look at it. Yes, the contrast is being pushed because that's the entire idea behind our 18% gray and pivot point, that we will stretch our contrast, but it's going to lock in the middle point so it moves in harmony and it is not disjointed like this, okay? And if you were to go, how do you know that your Rec 709 is supposed to be like the default, this right here? Well, let me prove it to you. So what we can do is we can detach this, which is DaVinci wide gamut to Rec 709, and we can move it right here before this point. And let's just get rid of this. And as soon as we do that, and if I go here and do before and after, and if we reset it and try it again, now you're seeing like how it's moving from the middle. And that's what I mean, that by default is set to Rec 709. So if you didn't have any idea, and if you use this contrast without really messing around with pivot, or if you mess around with pivot but randomly, not knowing exactly what your 18% gray was, and if your final exposure was coming off weird, this is the reason why. Let's move on to our second advanced term that's tossed around and what it really means, which is Luma mix set to 0. So what is the difference? If your Luma mix is set to 100, which is by default, your contrast and saturation move together. So what this means is this right here. Let's just go to an image like, let's just actually do it on an actual image. So first I'm going to reset so we go back to how we had everything set up. Let's just reset this. Okay, so if I go right here, and if I want to increase the contrast in my image, I move it up right here and I move it down right here. Okay, and what's happening is we are adding saturation to our image along with adding contrast. If we were to break this up and just move our Y channel, the results will be drastically different. There's no saturation added to it. So the idea is that when you take this Luma mix and when you kill it to 0, let's just leave it at 100. If I go right here and if I move this around, the change is happening, right? Okay. If I take this Luma mix and just drop it down to 0, now none of these matter, okay? Luma has nothing to do with this node anymore. So if I just go in my Y channel and if I just do this, nothing is happening. But if I go to 100%, everything is happening, okay? So if I go back to 0, now basically we can, without any issues, create a look without affecting our luminance. And that is a very, very powerful thing when you're creating a very interesting sort of look, okay? So whatever we're doing now, it has nothing to do with our luminance. So that's what people talk about when they say set Luma mix to 0, especially when they're in the process of look building. Very, very important, because we basically decoupled it. When you set the Luma mix to 0, you unlocked, you just decouple these, so these two gears are not moving in harmony. Moving on to HSV saturation. What does it mean? When you look at this chart right here, it gets to tell you a standard saturation is additive. So you're making your entire thing brighter. HSV does not affect, it's not your subtractive saturation. That is different right here, a little tease. I'm going to show you what that is. This is not the same. A lot of people confuse and think HSV is subtractive saturation. It's not. It's basically not affecting your luminance of each hue and only boosting the actual color intensity of those specific hues. So let's just look at it in action. I'm going to reset this. Actually, let's look at it here. Okay, so regular saturation, I cranked that up. Let's go to vector scope and we can clearly see how we just expanded it like a mother. Let's add a new version, reset this, and this time we're going to do HSV. So I'm going to go under color space, I'm going to select HSV, and then in my channels, I'm going to declip channel 1 and channel 3 because this is hue, this is saturation, and this is your luminance. And we're going to turn off luminance. We're only going to leave channel 2, which is saturation. And now we're going to just grab it from the middle in our curves. Actually, let's couple them and move it up. And when we do that, you see like how it's just leaving majority of it as is and just adding so much vibrancy into our image without really manipulating the brightness or the exposure of our image. So if we go back and look at regular saturation, additive, and then this is neutral. It's not touching the luminance, just making those hues vibrant. All right. Moving on to one of my favorite, which is subtractive saturation. Extremely different. So this is basically, think of it film density. Take the hue of your saturation, drop it. So when you drop the luminance of that hue, it makes the color seem and look and feel deeper. So that can be achieved in multiple different ways. I'm going to show you by dropping, I mean, you can do color density however you like. I'm going to use rapid grade right here. Again, you can try, color slice film density, but I want to show you on this. And if I go down here, turn on film traits, and then once we turn it on, let's just go ahead and kill a few things. And all right, so now we're basically down to 0, right? Now we go under film density, turn this on, and I'm going to take my global density and I'm going to start cranking it, okay? One thing we want to make sure that is set to Rec 709. So let's do Rec 709, Rec 709. Okay, there you go. So now if I come here and if I start moving it, you're seeing like how I'm adding so much punch into my image. Like look at these reds, film reds, these blues, whew, these greens. Oh my God. By the way, if you want to try Rapid Grade, there is a trial version. Link is going to be in the description. And if you want to purchase Rapid Grade, right now it is available as a standalone. This is a limited release. It's going to be the same Cosverse link, but just click on the banner up top and it will take you to where you can purchase Rapid Grade by itself. I mean, I highly recommend that you just get Cosverse instead because it just comes with so much more, but it's totally up to you. That option is available as a limited release. Let's get back to the video and see how we're subtracting the actual exposure of our image. So now if we look at our HSV, we look at our film density, subtractive color, subtractive saturation, neutral saturation, HSV, additive saturation. That is the difference. There's the time and place for each one, okay? What I like to do is the combination of these two, this and this. But in Rapid Grade, we use even a more sophisticated saturation model, spherical. And if I come here and if I just grab the midtones, and if I start saturating it, like look at how crazy the results are here. And then we can just do this, go back into film density, and whatever we want to do. If we want to like increase it or decrease it, we can easily do that. If we do before and after, there's just so much punch in our image and it can be achieved like that. So subtractive, neutral, additive. All right, moving on to our final and probably the most important thing that you guys need to know is scene referred workflow. So this is another term that's tossed around. The main difference is this: when you work in display referred, if you just don't do anything, when you just jump in Resolve and start working, it's basically set to display referred and you're absolutely destroying your image. You're not even taking advantage of anything. You might as well just shoot everything in Rec 709 because it's only the tip of the iceberg. It's not what's underneath it. This is scene referred. This is the data that is captured from your camera, that raw data, that everything that your camera had to give. When I say raw, I don't mean just raw. You can even just shoot it in log. It could be H.264. But all that information that came in is like right here. And to take full advantage of it, you have to have your working color space set to scene referred, because if it's set to this, you're doing this. You are only using, like basically the Rec 709 is so horrible that it's using only 35% of visible colors to human eye. Think about this. HDR, that we say when we see HDR, we bleed, right? Like our eyes just bleed. It's so good. It's only 75% of visible colors. DaVinci wide gamut, pretty much all of your camera data. And then ASUS AP1 is the industry standard. But this to me is just the sauce. Like you're future-proofing yourself. And look at the difference. Rec 709 is this orange guy. Like look at this compared to DaVinci wide gamut, which I prefer right here. This. And then ASUS is a little bit wider, but DaVinci Resolve is pretty much the same. As massive. And this is the real freaking juice. Because if we go right here, and as I mentioned, if you go to color space or color management, most of the time, color management, your default color management is set to Rec 709 scene, and then this is set to Rec 709 scene. And a lot of people just jump in and start grading in that. Don't do that. Make sure that your timeline is set to DaVinci wide gamut. You can leave your Rec 709 to scene, but you want to make sure that your timeline color space is always set to DaVinci wide gamut to get the most amount of juice out of your image. These are some of the things that a lot of people either don't understand or think that they do, but they don't really. And hopefully this video demystified these very sophisticated terms and just gave you the real nuts and bolts on what's going on under the hood and how can you use it to your benefit. Again, if you enjoy content like this, do me a favor, smash the like button, share it with friends. Let's just spread the word. Let's have more people get educated on these fundamentals of color grading. Once you crack the code on this, you can just start going and you can just start doing your own thing. But like your foundation is so solid now. I mean, you are better than 99% of the people out there. If you have any other content suggestions, drop them down below. I'll see you guys in the next video.